Good morning, everyone. Today is the class for BCOM program, evening shift. Acha, today is your second class, I think. Acha, in the first class, we have discussed about the basics of environment. We saw what are the components of environment, and we mainly saw the four basic components of the Earth's environment, which include the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, and the biosphere. Now, whenever we are talking of the atmosphere practically relates to the sphere of gases or the blanket of air which surrounds us, which includes various vital gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, ozone, etc. etc. Then the second component of the Earth's environment was the hydrosphere, which includes the sphere of water, that includes all water, salt water as well as fresh water. The third component includes the lithosphere, that is the sphere of rocks and soil, and the last component is the biosphere, which includes the sphere of life. So, after talking about these components, we shall discuss the last topic for the first chapter, that is the concept of sustainability and sustainable development. That is the concept of sustainability and sustainable development. Now, the concept of sustainable development was for the first time defined in a report called as Our Common Future. The concept of sustainable development for the first time was defined in a report called as Our Common Future. Now, this report, it was an outcome of a deliberation, of an international deliberation, which was constituted by the WCED, that is the World Commission on Environment and Development. So I am repeating, the concept of sustainable development for the first time was formally defined in a report, and the name of the report was Our Common Future. This report was an outcome of an international deliberation which was constituted by the WCED, World Commission on Environment and Development. Now, the commission which actually came up with the report, Our Common Future, that commission is known as the Brundtland Commission. That commission is known as the Brundtland Commission. It was chaired by the then Norwegian Prime Minister. It was chaired by the then Norwegian Prime Minister, Mr. Gro Harlem Brundtland. It was then chaired by the then Norwegian Prime Minister, Mr. Gro Harlem Brundtland. And because the report, that is Our Common Future, was prepared under his chairmanship, Mr. Brundtland's chairmanship, that is why the commission is called as the Brundtland Commission. Now, according to the Brundtland Commission, the sustainable development is defined as meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. I am repeating, according to the Brundtland Commission, sustainable development was defined as meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising on the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Okay, so now what is the need of sustainability? Now see, everyone on this planet, whatever be the organism, that particular organism needs resources to survive. If you don't have access to resources, you cannot survive. Any activity will require some utilization of a resource. So now, very importantly, the resources of this planet are not infinite. We don't have infinite supply of clean air. We don't have infinite supply of clean drinking water. We don't have infinite stocks of fertile soil. No. So that means we are living in a planet where resources are finite. But if the rate of resource utilization cannot keep pace with the rate of resource generation, that will lead to resource inequity, and that will ultimately lead us to resource crisis. So that is what the modern world faces, resource crisis. Those who have access to money and power, they have greater access to resources, and those who do not have accessibility to such money and power, they will not have access to resources. That is why we find there is so much of poverty throughout the world, so much of illiteracy throughout the world. So the concept of sustainability aims to utilize the resources of the present, or to utilize the resources by the present generation in such a way so that the future generations of the world, can also utilize the resources without any compromise. So that means the present day resource utilization should be in such a way so that in the future there should not be any compromise pertaining to both resource quality as well as resource quantity. Now you must remember that this concept of sustainability, or the concept of sustainable development, it is based upon three pillars. It is based upon three pillars which are called as the pillars of sustainable development. Now the three pillars of sustainable development include environment, social and economic pillar. What are the three pillars of sustainable development? The three pillars of sustainable development include the environmental pillar, the social pillar and the economic pillar. So all these three pillars working together can help us to achieve sustainable development. Now as far as the pillar of environment is concerned, it aims to achieve environmental development by maintaining clean air, fertile land, by maintaining and supplying clean drinking water, by maintaining the planet's biodiversity, by taking up strategies which will help to achieve a stable climate, by better utilization of minerals, better and efficient use of energy, etc. etc. The concept of social development, or the social pillar of sustainability, will aim to provide food to all. That means it will aim to achieve food security. It will target to provide shelter for all, clothing for all, and it will also definitely target to preserve the cultural diversity of the planet. So different kinds of people live on this planet. There are different cultures pertaining to that. So maintenance of cultural diversity is also a part of social sustainability. Then comes the economic pillar, which helps to achieve economic sustainability. Now, economic sustainability can be achieved by better production strategies, better processing strategies, better marketing, better transportation facilities, more investments on development, and developing the communication infrastructure. So all these will definitely lead to economic sustainability. So when all the three pillars of sustainability, that is the environmental pillar, the social pillar and the economic pillar, when all these three pillars work hand in hand, when we achieve environmental, social and economic sustainability together, it is only then that we can achieve what we call as sustainable development. Now, very importantly, there are some priority areas pertaining to sustainable development. So let us discuss these priority areas. Which areas does sustainable development focus on? Now, one of the first priority area on which sustainable development will focus is definitely to slow down population growth. Now, this is because if we do not slow down the global human population growth, we cannot reduce the pressure on various resources. We cannot reduce the problem of resource crisis, the problem of resource inequity. So, a primary requisite for achieving sustainability is to slow down population growth. The second priority area for achieving sustainability is to reduce poverty, to reduce inequality, and to reduce the debts of the third world. The third world refers to the underdeveloped and developing countries like us. So these countries are facing a lot of problems as far as poverty is concerned, as far as inequality is concerned, and obviously we are indebted to the first world. Whatever developmental activities we undertake, that involves a lot of money, and that money is primarily taken as a loan from the first world countries. So the priority area of the sustainable development will definitely to improve the health, longevity and literacy of the people living in the third world, and definitely to increase the employment opportunities in the third world. And all these will ultimately lead to preservation of the various species, the plant and animal species living here. It will lead to the conservation of the land. It will lead to the conservation of water quality. It will help to prevent water pollution. The third priority area, as far as sustainability is concerned, is to make agriculture sustainable. Now, in the modern day, after Green Revolution, we have resorted to various harmful processes for continuing our agriculture. We have resorted to various environmentally degrading processes for achieving short-term goals. But sustainable development aims to achieve long-term goals by making agriculture sustainable. So agriculture can be made sustainable definitely by reducing or curbing soil erosion, by decreasing the practice of harmful agricultural practices like uh, application of unnecessary quantities of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides to the agricultural fields. Then, to curb the loss of agricultural biodiversity, to control land degradation, and ultimately to control pollution. Now, the fourth priority area, as far as sustainable development is concerned, is to protect the forests and other habitats. Now, you must remember that forests are the home not only to plants and animals, they also provide a lot of ecological and economical services. They provide us with a lot of economical goods which have a market value. So conservation of these forests definitely becomes a priority as far as sustainable development is concerned. Now, not only forest conservation is important, at the same time sustainability focuses on forest reforestation, afforestation of the various wastelands, lands which are economically and ecologically unproductive, then to control the various greenhouse gases so that climate change can be taken care of, and all this will ultimately lead to reduce air pollution and water pollution. It will help to prevent land degradation, and it will definitely help to prevent unnecessary depletion of energy and minerals. The next priority area of sustainability is to make water and energy use sustainable. Now, sustainable development invariably will focus on technologies which will improve water and energy use efficiency. It will focus on technologies, it will invest on technologies which will aim to bring down the global water crisis and energy crisis. It will lead to more water and energy conservation. So, making water and energy use sustainable is also one of the priority areas as far as sustainable development is concerned. And the next priority area of sustainable development is to reduce waste production. Now, whatever processes we undertake, these processes invariably generate wastes. So, a key priority area of sustainable development will be to reduce waste generation. That means there has to be more focus on waste reuse, on recycling of waste, and on improving the production processes. So if we can improve the production process pertaining to any product, that will help to reduce what we can say the waste generation. So these are some of the priority areas of sustainable development. I am repeating them. The priority areas of sustainable development include: slow down population growth, number 2, reduce poverty, reduce inequality and the third world debt, number 3, to make agriculture sustainable, number 4, to protect forests and other habitats, number 5, make water and energy use sustainable, number 6, reduce waste generation. So these are some of the priority areas as far as sustainable development is concerned. So with that, we come to the end of the first chapter. Now, after talking about the first chapter, the next thing with which we shall begin is the discussion about resources, or practically natural resources. Is the discussion about resources or practically natural resources. So you must remember that this is a very long chapter. Resource is a very long chapter, so we will discuss some parts of it, and since it's a studied chapter in your lower classes, I will tell you what to study and I will provide you with some notes on this chapter. Okay, now first and foremost, let us try to define what exactly is a resource. Now anything that we obtain, that we utilize from the living or non-living environment, which satisfies our wants and needs, is what we call as a resource. So what is a resource? Resource is anything obtained from the living or non-living environment which satisfies our wants and needs. Now remember, resources cannot satisfy our greed. Resources cannot satisfy our greed, it can only satisfy our needs. Now, to call something as a resource, it must satisfy some important characteristics. So, let us see what are the useful characteristics of a resource. Now, the useful characteristics or the chief characteristics of a resource include: number one, functionality. Number one, functionality. Number two, the resource must have some kind of a serviceability. It should be I should be able to use the resource somewhere. Number three, the resource must have acceptability. Number four, there must be a demand of the resource. Number five, the resource must be eco-friendly. And number six, the resource must have the ability to preserve the biosphere. The resource must have the ability to preserve the biosphere. So, as I was saying, what are the basic characteristic features of a resource? The basic characteristic features of a resource include: number one, functionality. Number two, serviceability. Number three, acceptability. Number four, demand. Number five, eco-friendliness. And number six, ability to preserve the biosphere. Ability to preserve the biosphere. Okay, now let us try to make a classification of these resources. Let us try to make a classification of these resources. Now, resources can be classified on several bases. Now, the three basic bases on which we can classify resources is based on its biological properties, based on its stability, and based on what it is made up of, based on how it has been prepared. Now, as far as sorry, there was a slight disconnection. Acha. Now, as I was saying, there can be various ways by which resources can be classified. So, based on the biological properties of the resources, we can classify resources as biotic resources or abiotic resources. We can classify resources as biotic resources or abiotic resources. Now, what are biotic resources? The biotic resources, they are of biological origin. Biotic resources, they are of biological origin. Say for example, plant resource, animal resource, microbiological resource. So all those resources which are of biological origin, from which we derive important biological products, are what we call as biological resources. Now then there are abiotic resources. Abiotic resources means resources which are not of biological origin. resources which are not of biological origin. So for example, say mineral resources, there are different kinds of minerals, the metallic resources. So the different kinds of these non resources of non biological origin are what we call as abiotic resources. Then there is one more classification based on the stability. Now based on stability, we can classify resources as non renewable and renewable resources. So what are non renewable resources? The non renewable resources are the stock resources which are finite in quantity. Say for example, the fossil fuels on this planet, the total amount of coal, the total amount of petroleum, total amount of natural gas, or the total gold reserves of this planet. These are stock resources. So that means they have taken a very long time to be formed and to be accumulated on this planet. And then comes the renewable resources. The renewable resources are the ones which are present in infinite quantities in nature, or which you can call as flow resources. So even if we try, we cannot exhaust resources. So the rate of such renewable resource generation far exceeds the rate of renewable resource consumption. For example, sunlight, solar energy. Even if we try our level best, we will not be able to exhaust out the solar energy. So based on stability, we have classified resources as non-renewable resources and renewable resources. Achha, now depending on from what the resource is made up of, from what the resource is made up of, we classify resources as natural resources, human resources, and cultural resources. So based on what the resource is made up of, we classify resources as natural resource, human resource, and cultural resource. Now as far as natural resources are concerned, as you can understand, they are derived directly from nature. Say for example, the soil resource. Climate is a resource for us. Rivers are a resource for us. Forests, resource. So such resources which are derived directly from nature are what we call as natural resources. Then comes the human resources. Now human resource mainly includes the human what you can say knowledge, human technical abilities, the work power of human beings. That is what we call as human resource. And lastly comes the cultural resource. Now whenever we talk of cultural resource, it chiefly includes our scientific knowledge, our awareness, our technical skills and capabilities, our behavior. These are all what we call as our cultural resources. So overall, we can classify resources based on several criteria. Number one, what are its biological characters? So based on biological characters, we have divided resources into biotic and abiotic. Based on its stability, we have divided resources into non-renewable and renewable. And uh, based on what the resource is made up of, or from where the resource is originating, based on that we have classified resources as natural resources, human resources, and cultural resources. Now for your examination purpose, please note down what are the resources you will study. For your examination purpose, please note down what are the resources you will study. Number one, forest resource. Number two, water resource. Number three, next you will study about just a second, mineral resource. You will study about mineral resource. Number four, you will study about food resource. Number five, you will study about land resource. And number six, and most importantly, you will study about the energy resources. You will study about the energy resources. Now see, as far as energy resources are concerned, you need to study about the two basic types of energy resource. One is the conventional energy resource, and the other is the non-conventional energy resource. One is the conventional energy resource, and the other is the non-conventional. Well, what is the difference between a conventional and non-conventional energy resource? Conventional energy resources are those which we have been utilizing for a very long span of time. For example, if you think of the fossil fuels, for example, coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc., these are what we call as the conventional fuels, because we have been using coal and petroleum for a very long span of time. And if you think of the global economy is absolutely based on coal and petroleum. They form the backbone of the global economy. So these are the conventional fuels. So what are the non-conventional energy sources? Non-conventional energy sources are those which we have been utilizing fairly recently. Say for example, solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy, etc., etc. So when you study about the energy resources, definitely study about the conventional energy resource as well as the non-conventional energy resource. Now regarding the various energy resources that you will study, definitely study the two advantages and two disadvantages of using these resources. Definitely study the two advantages and two disadvantages of using these resources. That is something which is very important, and it is very commonly asked in the examination also. Acha. Now if you have any doubts pertaining to today's class, please ask me. If you have any doubts pertaining to today's class. Achha, very shortly I will be providing you with the notes. Achha, how many of you require the notes in Bengali and how many of you require the notes in English? Please tell me that. English, na? Achha, English. Achha, and Bengali, any Bengali students who require the notes in Bengali? Any Bengali students who require the notes in Bengali? Okay, then I will be providing the notes in English only. Did you get the notes of the first chapter? Did you get the notes of the first chapter? No.
No, sir. No, sir. No.
I will be forwarding it to you. I will be forwarding it to your teacher, and he will be forwarding it to the group. Just now I will be doing that. Don't worry. So I will be providing you with the notes of the first chapter and the notes of this chapter on resources also. I will be providing it to you in both Bengali and English. That will be better then. Okay. Have you purchased your books?
Okay.
Have you purchased your books? Now, if you haven't purchased your book, try to purchase a book which will help you to study. Although I will provide with the notes, but still you need a book that will help you. Okay, so for the English version students, you can purchase the book named book written by Dr. Anubha Kaushik and Dr. C.P. Kaushik. Okay, and for the you can also purchase another book by another author named Dr. Sujan Kumar Bala. That is also an English book in the English version that is quite easy for you to understand. And then for those who are studying in Bengali version, you can purchase the book by Dr. Anish Chattopadhyay or by Dr. Pritha Bhattacharjee. These are books in the Bengali version. So what I would always suggest you to purchase a book. Although I am providing with the notes, but definitely purchase a book. That will help you a lot. Okay? Achha, if you have any doubts pertaining to today's class, please ask me. If you have any doubts, otherwise I will be ending the class and I will be uploading I will be uploading the video for today's class in the YouTube channel from where you can listen to it again. Okay. Then I am then ending.
Can you provide me the link, sir?
Huh? The link. Okay, I am providing you with the link. Okay, I am providing you with the link just now. Just hold on. I will provide it in the chat box. Just hold on. Just a second. Just a second, I will provide you with the link. Okay, I'm typing it in the chat box. Huh?
Okay, sir.
See, that's the link. See, that's the link.
Thank you, sir.
Just copy the link and send it to your friends. Now in this channel you will be finding the class lectures which I have taken for others classes also, say for BCOM honors, for BSc honors. So there are multiple topics. You can listen to it as many times as you can, even if you are not able to attend the class directly. Okay, and regarding your attendance, you need not worry, but try to attend as many classes as you can. Okay, and in case of any problems you can contact me. Okay.
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 Thank
Bye.
you, sir.
Bye. Bye. Meet you next Tuesday again. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Hmm.